When I became governor in 2011, I knew that this state could not continue along the path that it was traveling in terms of simply locking people up, throwing away the key to some extent, and then hoping for the best, because it was not producing what people wanted. There are two things that I think society expects. One is they expect to be kept safe. And to those of you who are in the broader criminal justice arena, I see the sheriff is here, and I see other law enforcement officials who are here. Thank you, because you're an important part of that public safety component. But I think they also expect that they will be maintained in safety well into the future, and that their tax dollars, if they are being spent for those purposes, will be well spent. So in 2011, when I became governor, I knew that we were not getting the results that we wanted. You could not say that spending over $1 billion a year in our criminal justice compartment of corrections alone, with a recidivism rate of 1 out of every 3 adult offenders who were being released from our system returning within 3 years, you could not say that you were keeping society safe, because quite honestly, many times those who have been in our prison system, unless there has been something that has changed and altered their life, and that relates to that third component that I will be trying to take up next year, and that is to make sure that when they are returned to society, they're not more dangerous than when they were sent into the system. And that has a lot to do with training, skill acquisitions during the time they're incarcerated, and then transitions back into normal society so that they don't reoffend. But you can't say that if you're having 1 out of every 3 adult offenders return to your prison system within 3 years, you can't say you're keeping society safe either, nor that you're spending and saving the money of the taxpayer. So we undertook that. We did it through the original Criminal Justice Reform Council that was statutorily put in place by the members of the General Assembly. And I overlooked asking you folks to raise your hands and be identified. We have several here, so would y'all all that are members of the General Assembly, would you raise your hands so that we can acknowledge you? These folks work hard. You know, it's a 40-day session, and they have to give up a lot to be able to come to Atlanta and to work. And sometimes I don't think they receive the recognition that they should for their service. So thank you for all of your work. But we undertook that through the council, and they worked hard during the summer and the fall of 2011, made the recommendations to the General Assembly as they came in session in January of 2012. And these recommendations related to the adult system. And you heard the reforms that were put in place. To specify what one of the major portions of those reforms were, it is the creation of more accountability courts, so that those who truly are not violent offenders, but who've made a mistake, and most of them have made a mistake along those lines because they're addicted, either to drugs or alcohol or a combination of both, that they will be given a chance if they take that chance. And it's not easy going through a drug court or DUI court or mental health court, and we're getting more mental health courts and more veterans courts around our state. That's not easy, but if they're willing to take the chance to do for themselves, and we give them that opportunity and they do it, they are better off, society is better off, because to put them in a prison cell, it costs over $18,000 a year per individual. Now, as a result of that legislation that passed and the funding that was put in the budget, an additional $10 million the first year to create and to expand accountability courts throughout our state, we expect that we're going to achieve the results, and one of the results is purely on a financial side of things. We expect that over the next 5 years in the criminal justice arena, the adult arena, that we're going to save the taxpayers of Georgia some $264 million as a result of those reforms. Well, that was the adult arena. We think it's the right thing to do. We think it will produce results that all of us want. But last week I signed another bill that was also recommendations from the council in the adult arena. And it was a sequel to the first recommendations. And what it does is it gives judges the ability to use more common sense in sentencing. It eases some of the mandatory minimum sentences and allows what we consider to be truth in sentencing, so that when the prosecutor and the defendant's attorney and the judge all agree that there should be a deviation, and these are very limited categories of deviation, they're allowed to do so. We think it maintains the integrity of the system and avoids undue and long punishments for folks where the facts certainly don't justify the mandatory minimum. So we believe that was the right thing to do. It also statutorily creates the Criminal Justice Reform Council on a statutory basis, and will carry it into the future, and that's where I hope some of the other recommendations that we will consider in years to come will move through that process. It also does something on the other end too. It says that if an inmate has taken advantage of educational opportunities while incarcerated, and they have earned a HOPE GED, that they would be able to take that eligibility forward with them out of the prison system for an additional 2 years and hopefully pursue educational opportunities. So we think we have now pretty well reformed on the criminal justice side on the adult arena, and the next undertaking was on the juvenile justice side. And that began as a result of the reconstituted Criminal Justice Reform Council, that it was expanded. I expanded it by executive order. And some of the new members who are here, and I'll recognize some of them in just a minute, they were added to it to bring some expertise from the juvenile court standpoint. And that was the undertaking. Now, I told you that in the adult system, the recidivism rate was 1 out of every 3 within 3 years. That the cost of a bed in the adult system is about $18,000 a year. In the juvenile system, the statistics are much worse. It is 1 out of every 2 who are back in our system within 3 years. And instead of being $18,000 for a bed, it's about $90,000 a bed for a year in our juvenile system. So we know that that's not working either. So we believe that the reforms we will make here will save the state about $85 million over the next 5 years, and we pretty well know from the statistics that it will keep us from having to build 2 new juvenile detention facilities. So that is huge savings, and we think not only does it improve public safety, but it also does the right thing in terms of providing alternatives. We have designated some $5 million in our budget this year for voluntary grant program to communities that will develop and provide alternative community-based solutions as an alternative to incarceration. And we hope to be able to expand that. If we can save the money on the one end, it'll allow us to use the money on the front end for these alternative programs. This will include counseling on substance abuse, family counseling, because many of these young offenders are alienated from family units, and we believe by doing that we can save them early in the process and not have them move into the arena as an adult offender. It also, of course, does many other things. It gives some flexibility for the judges. You heard in my introduction that I had been a juvenile court judge at one time. My great frustration was when a young person came before me where something needed to be done. I had 2 choices. I could either send them to be incarcerated in a facility such as this, or I could send them back home into the environment that got them in trouble in the first place. And neither of those were sometimes very appropriate solutions. This will give us a major solution of an alternative diversion approach. We believe that it's the right thing to do. And it will allow us to focus our resources on high-risk people. the ones who really are dangerous. And one of the reforms in the juvenile system is we're going to consolidate into a facility those juvenile offenders who are really the dangerous ones, the ones who don't just think they're bad, but who really are bad. If we can get them out from the population of others who are in trouble, we don't need these others learning from them. We believe it solves another problem as well. So, we believe we've done the right thing on both of these, and that is what we will be signing in terms of House Bill 242.
Okay, here we go. It's one of those occasions I need a long hand. Here's the second, isn't it? Yes, sir. Short month. All right. That's House Bill 242.